Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. On 19th of December, we just don't have a full moon. We also have Venus going retrograde. We're going to talk about both of this today. The full moon in Gemini, which is happening today, which is Sun and Moon opposing each other. It is happening at 27 degree 29 minutes of Gemini, and Moon in Gemini always encourages us to communicate. That's what we are doing right now. It encourages us to connect. So over the course of next 2 weeks, you'll want to make some connections, look at reading, writing, communicating, using your throat chakra and your mind a little bit more. It's about mental agility as well as agility of the physical body to some extent, skipping, hopping, taking short trips, connecting with people who are different from you, seeking variety, having a little bit of fun, a desire to balance out the heavy energy that has been the dominant theme since about 4th of December eclipse, which was in Sagittarius, and it feels like a lifetime ago, but it was only 2 weeks ago and it started on a heavy note. We also have Venus going retrograde, and Venus has been with Pluto for most of this month, and it will continue to be with Pluto till about end of this month. So you'll find that there is an intense situation, maybe an intense love situation or an intense personal, professional situation, or an intense situation with a woman possibly, which you're dealing with, which is heavy in nature. And it is happening at a time when we are releasing a lot because we are on the last degrees. This is the last vestige of South Node in Sagittarius process of releasing an old belief system and substituting that with a new thought process. So there's a lot of thinking going on. There's a lot of substitution of thought going on, changing the way we think about situation, changing our belief system at a time when Venus is urging us to also get serious about either a romantic situation or a financial situation, something which needs to be finalized, or you feel that there is a intensity to finalize something. So you have this light and a little bit of heavy energy both playing out at the same time, and we are going to try to balance the two out today. We're going to talk about how to balance the two energies. We'll also talk about what the last 2 years of North Node in Gemini was supposed to teach us, because this is a once in 19-year transit that we are closing in January 2022, when we would also have both Venus and Mercury retrograde. So how the two will mingle together, what we are meant to take forward or learn from, if we have been taught anything over the course of last 2 years, what was it? I'm going to talk about that as well, and we're going to usher in 2022 together. My name is Charu. I'm your host on this journey. Let's begin. I'm going to first talk about closing the North Node in Gemini, the last 2 years, and this once in 19-year transit, which is North Node was in Gemini, and it transited in Gemini since May of 2020. So this thought process, this change in thought process, this reskilling, this need to be agile in our minds so we can change our direction on a moment, this learning started in May of 2020 for us. And this process will end in January 2022 by nodes moving into Taurus and Scorpio. But the process doesn't end over there. We are meant to carry forward the lessons that we have learned over the course of last 2 years for the next decade, when again after 8 or 9 years we'll have nodes reversed and we'll be questioned, and then again we have to change our course in some ways. But right now what's happening is, with this full moon, we are meant to in some way revise the lessons of North Node in Gemini, and that's what I'm doing with you right now. North Node in Gemini last happened back in October of 2001 to April of 2003, but I'm pretty sure none of us remember the lessons from back then. The thing is that if you and I have not had a Saturn return, first Saturn return happens around 27, 28 years of age. So if we have not had a Saturn return at 27 or 28 years, you would not feel the impact. I have not seen North Node and South Node lessons to be very pertinent till we have gone through that threshold. So if you were not 27 or 28 years old back in October 2001 to April of 2003, you would not have learned anything or got any lessons out of that process. we saw it in the global events. 9/11 happened at that time. So we saw it in the global events on how the lessons of North Node in Gemini and South Node in Sagittarius, they have a resonance from October 2001 to April of 2003 to the current moment. But personally, you may not have learned anything at that time. So let me revise or to state my perspective on what the last 2 years were meant to teach us. The process of last 2 years, in my view, was about a whole new way of thinking. Not in Gemini, because Gemini is our mind, is our thinking. It is also our speech. It's our skill set. So we found a rebirth in our skill set, in our way of thinking, in our mindset over the course of last 2 years with this process of North Node in Gemini. The process where it becomes evident that sticking to the old belief system, sticking to the old knowledge that we have acquired, which is the Sagittarius part of it. Sagittarius part of it is that I know everything. I know everything, and I know the big picture, and I have this knowledge from above of the big picture, or I have these 10 degrees. I have qualified for these 10 degrees. I am very highly educated, so I will do well in life. That is the thought process, a belief system of relying on old knowledge, which we have realized that in a moment, your old knowledge, your old degrees, your old belief system can become redundant. And we have realized the value on agility of the mind, which only comes from the flexibility of not sticking to the old knowledge, not sticking to the old degrees, not sticking to the old belief system, even when it comes to world event. There is no one way to handle a situation. The way to handle a situation needs to evolve. So we have been taught the value of agility and flexibility of the mind, and the flexibility to change our knowledge, that you can teach an old dog new tricks, essentially, and all of us have been taught new tricks over the course of last 2 years, and that was a key messaging of North Node in Gemini and South Node in Sagittarius. The other key lesson, I believe, was that you cannot live in the past or the future. Of course, that holds for any time, but when North Node is in Gemini, events happen that bring our attention to the current moment, where in some ways it becomes futile to mourn the past, because the past will never repeat itself in the future anymore. You cannot go back to who you were before the last 2 years happened, as well as you have this fear of the future, and in that trying to live both in the past and the future, you miss out the current moment. So events happen that bring our attention to the here and now, and we are encouraged to live in the present versus mourn the past or fear the future that hasn't happened. So we have to change our approach to life, and that change in approach to life happens through a shift in mental attitude, which was the process of the last 2 years. We have come to recognize that our words have power. They have more power than we have been giving it credit. That done is better than incessant thinking. Saying, I know this, I know how to do this, is not better than just doing it. Done is better than incessant thinking, or even having a superiority of thought process that I have the knowledge. The person who wins in this game when North Node is in Gemini is the person who actually goes and markets their products versus saying, I have these 10 degrees or I know this. Street smartness works with North Node in Gemini. And that is what we are being again reaffirmed with this full moon. And these are the lessons that we need to carry, not just over the course of next 2 weeks when this full moon is applicable. This is something that we have to carry for the next 9 years. The lessons that are learned when a transit happens in nodes, that lesson carries forward to the next, when the nodes are next in those signs. So North Node will be in Sagittarius after 8 or 9 years. You'll find that the lessons that we have learned over the course of last 2 years, they're going to serve you for the next decade, essentially. The brave steps that you're taking of reskilling, of changing the way we think, of self-development. When North Node is in Gemini, we go through an intense, accelerated process of not just learning skills which are, theoretical skills, having a knowledge, but practical life skills, becoming more valuable in our thought process, in our physical hands, learning skills which are life skills that create real life wealth, and which creates physical difference in the world. So this process doesn't end here. The skills that you have acquired, the brave steps that you have taken, they will serve you over the course of next decade, and you leverage the benefits of the bold steps that you're taking and the expansion of the mind that you've embarked upon by being brave in an uncertain world. It will serve you well for the next 10 years, and we have to leverage the benefits also of releasing ourselves from the need to always trying to figure out, always knowing the big picture. We don't know the big picture. Sometimes you have to have faith and do your part, which is to stay flexible with the situation. We have learned that we need to let time do its thing, that time is going to bring uncertain situations, and the best thing that we can do is to evolve with the situation. Also, releasing ourselves from any kind of inadequacy we have felt in the past. An inadequacy because we are waiting to be given the seat, we are waiting to be given the podium, versus just saying, being simple about it. Life is a playground. We all have equal opportunity to play. You don't have to wait to be given the podium. We all have a microphone. We all have an internet. We all have a screen. It's time to just show what you got in terms of your skill set. So this kind of Sagittarius part of our chart, or archetype of Sagittarius, always waits to say, I'm highly educated. I'm highly qualified. I have these 10 degrees hanging on my wall. Somebody should invite me to speak because I have what it takes. I have what it takes. This is versus saying life is let's be simple about it. Let's be just, commercial about it. Life is a playground. We are all here to play. Each one of us has a fair shot at it. So we're going to all take it. We're going to take it lighter, simple, agile, flexibility of the mind, not constantly questioning your ability to display your talents, your ability, do I have enough certificates, do I have enough support from the mentors, have I aged enough to be able to do this. All of those thought processes, which is the old belief system, the old economy, it all needs to be given up. And we have learned that through practical life example that has already happened. Trying to always find the end game, because it becomes very complicated when you try to figure out everything. When you try to figure out the end game, it looks too big, it looks scary, versus just saying, in the now I'm going to post this, in the now I'm going to speak up, in the now I'll make this connection, in the now I'm just going to do this one practical step to get there. Not keeping our mind in empty business of wanting to know everything before you do anything, versus just enjoying the variety and the flexibility of experiences that messing up sometimes brings you. Trying to color, not knowing how to color, or trying to do something like I don't know how to do this and I'm doing it, and it's like just the experience, just for the sake of enjoying it and having fun with it, bringing not a dulled out approach to things, and enjoying the variety of life experiences that are coming to us through crisis. Yes, they are, but it's better than being dulled into the sameness as we were. None of us, most of us that I've spoken to, wouldn't want to go back to who they were 2 years back. Most of us don't want to go back to who we were 2 years back. There is a shaking up which happens when North Node is in Gemini of our own mind and thought process. And it comes when we really want to change ourselves. But in some ways, we were not flexible before this moment to do that. It's not a physical crisis. And I'm really grateful to those who are physically trying to avoid the crisis. This is a mental crisis. In North Node in Gemini, it's always the crisis of the mind. How flexible we are to move forward. The chaos within becomes the chaos outside when North Node is in Gemini. Your thought process creates your reality in general, but when North Node is in Gemini, this is manifestation, fated manifestation of what we are thinking about. So the chaos within becomes a chaos outside. It is a crisis of the mind. It is not a physical crisis when North Node is in Gemini. And no disrespect to anyone who is physically doing everything for it to not become a physical crisis, and we are grateful to them for it. But in our individual capacity, it is our mind which we need to manage. We very quickly create what we are thinking, because destiny sits in the mind and the tongue when North Node is in Gemini, much more than ever. Clear thinking, our mental attitude, it becomes most helpful in pursuing our path. And South Node in Sagittarius, it represents untapped treasure of expanded consciousness within us. We have already worked and spent the last 9 years living under the influence of the lessons learned with North Node in Sagittarius 9 years back, where we have, so over the course of last 9 years, we have already created the big picture. We have created this whole untapped potential within us of faith, of what we want out of life. So bigger picture was created over the course of last 9 years. That's not what the next 9 years are about. They are about living it. They're about practically living it. Instead of going on thinking that I'm going to do this, I'm going to write this, I'm going to publish this, I will get this certification and then I'll get this. It's about playing. It's about being in the playground and remembering that all of us have the equal opportunity by, not getting jaded. Sagittarius thought process, archetype thought process is being jaded by the old belief system, because this is how the 10 generations have succeeded. So that is how I need to go through these 20 steps before I get success. That thought process is not the road to success. The next 9 years are going to be about practically doing it. All the experiences which have brought up to this moment of life's knowing life's goal, where you want to go, but now knowing that the path to it, the practical way to it is going to be different, and the skills through which you will get there are going to be different. That recognition is something that we need to register with this closure of North Node in Gemini. It's not an energy to be wasted in trying to figure out life's goal. Instead of doing what's available to us in the now to the fullest in the most skillful way, trying to figure out, because goals sometimes they don't unfold. We saw this in the last 2 years. Goals don't unfold. Plans don't unfold. The 10-year plans don't unfold in the way that we thought they would. What does unfold is what we can do in the moment, doing what is available to us in the fullest, in the most skillful fashion. The goals unfold by doing small things perfectly and enjoying each one of them while doing it. Follow through on those small things is not easy, because we are programmed to be motivated by the end goal, right? So we, as humans, our programming is, this is what you're going to achieve in 10 years if you do this right now. So when you say, okay, don't look at the 10-year picture, there's less motivation to do the thing in the now. So motivation of doing the thing in the now is the fun of it, is the variety of it, is the learning of it, is the expansion in the moment from it. How about now we just accept that right now we're going to just do and become more valuable by doing something that is available to me in the now, versus trying to figure it all out somehow. I'm going to become more of value and more skillful through the multiplicity of experiences that I'm being exposed to. Fixity will come. Fixity is coming. We are going to have the next 2 years of North Node in Taurus and South Node in Scorpio, which is about fixing things. So we will find our grounding, and we would in some ways be forced to find grounding over the course of next 2 years, because Taurus and Scorpio axis, they demand from us to create value, fixed value, and not just imagine and envisage. So the last 2 years have been about play, and the next 2 years are going to be about fixing that play, getting money out of it, getting value out of it, fixing stuff for long term, but not in the way which is traditional, because Uranus is going to be with Taurus, with North Node in Taurus. So we're going to do something untraditional, but we'll have to demand value out of it. So fixity will come. Don't be scared about that. But the next few weeks and months, as you bring this to closure, this North Node in Gemini to closure, we live the last vestige of this accelerated process of change of mind, and give yourself the permission to be the student, to play with different colors and mess up. Because that is what was the teaching from the last 2 years. You have to sometimes go in the sandpit and play for a bit to get the ideas for the next 10 years. Real destiny is an ordinary life, is in the moment when we enjoy the distraction of a new learning, a new thought, devoid of the judgment of where is it going, or devoid of the judgment of the past. It never worked in the past. It didn't work for those people. Why will it work for you? Devoid of the arrogance of somehow knowing at the onset if something is going to be big or not. Devoid of the need to make it big versus just enjoying the mental stimulation that it offers. Devoid of the prejudice of the past losses that we might have faced by playing with things. Always holding the faith that I will be more through the process of it all. I will be bigger in my life experiences, even if not in the wallet, through the process of it all. And that being the dominant driver to move forward. Dominant driver to move forward is Gemini part of us, which is fun, quippy, curious, flirting with ideas, flirting with people, connecting with people, having fun with it a little bit. It doesn't have to be always so heavy and jaded. We don't have to try to make everything into something. Some things are done because we become more in the doing of it. So the part of us that wants us to write, communicate, meet, learn, play in chaos, it's trying to expand our mind. It's trying to expand who we are as a person. It's adding a few skill sets which are going to serve us for life and not just theoretically serve us. So I mentioned this last year, like North Node in Gemini, children are simple. Children are simple. So when my kid looks at me, maybe cribbing about something, I have cribbed for a very long time about not being able to bike after we relocated to the current place where I'm living. And they're not looking at cribbing. They don't look at being justified to get something. They don't keep questioning if there is a bigger plan to me playing with this ball right now or with this thing right now. They are just doing something because of the fun with it. And in the process of having fun with it, they become a bit more. It may not fit in their 15-year plan, which they don't have, but there is no concept of delayed gratification. As I mentioned, I've been complaining for a long time. I miss biking. And I mentioned this at the onset, this example at the onset of North Node of Gemini. And I kept saying this for the longest time. And my daughter just one day just said to me, you can only pretend to ride when you don't have a bike. If you really want to bike, just get a real bike. They have a simple thought process. If you love to do something, just do it. If you really, really want to have fun with the situation, just do it. Well, I got the bike. I had a bit of fun. I fell a lot. Growing up is overrated. Growing up is overrated, mostly. And we're going to talk about growing up a little bit because we'll have to balance this, being a child energy, having fun with it, coloring outside the lines energy that this full moon in Gemini and the last 2 years of North Node in Gemini is trying to teach us. We'll have to balance that out with the growing up energy of Venus retrograde. So I'm going to go into that now.